I wanted to go over briefly with you. The handouts that you have are really a lot smaller than all of the slides. We've got a lot of information to go through today. So these are really key for just the notes, and they do have the key links, but you're going to actually be experiencing the page, the web page itself. And so there's a lot more slides, but that's the purpose of your handouts, is to allow you to write whatever notes that are critical to you. So does the government buy what I sell is the main reason that we're here today. And the objectives that we're going to go through are some really critical steps that will save you a lot of time. The problem that we all have is that there is a lot of information out there. There's a lot of websites out there. The problem being that they are full of information, and you can waste a lot of time searching around to find out which is the key. So I'm going to cut to the chase and show you the keys. And those are the critical steps that we're going to kind of go through. And these are websites that you can use over and over again for various reasons. We're going to show key websites for some quick insight, and we're going to be helping you to understand how to discover what have the past purchases been, what's presently out there and available on requests for proposals, and what are potential purchases for the forecasting future. There's bonus features on all of these websites that we'll be going through, and then I'm going to show some additional websites that you'd want to look at, and all along kind of be educating you on how the government purchases. We all have these thoughts in mind because of what we've heard, and the government really does purchase in a lot of different ways. So to start with, on the critical steps, hopefully everyone in here already knows what their NAICS code is. If you do not, or if you want to see what other NAICS codes, the industry codes that you work in, are available to you and complementary things that you also perform or are considering performing, then the census.gov website is exactly where you would go. And there is, on the upper left side, there is a keyword search, and you can type in, you know, several words if that's what it takes, but just start spending a little bit of time. Don't spend too much, but 15 or 20 minutes on that website, you can start to look at complementary other industry codes that may be things that you can also perform and that you may want to put on your profile, your capability statement, etc., for the future. A way to find out about your competitors is sam.gov, and we're going to be going through the sam.gov on down. Census, we won't, because it's a fairly simple website. You just go to it, you type in the keywords, and it'll start giving you the list of what the industry codes are. So we're going to start going into more detail on other slides about sam.gov, so I'm just going to touch on it. We're going to explain a little more about the dynamic small business search. Both of those sites are good ways of finding out information about competitors that are already contracting with the government or want to contract with the government. And then we're going to drill down a little more on how better to focus your search. So these are the key critical steps that we're going to address in more detail here. So sam.gov is the website. If you're going to do business with the government, you have to be registered on sam.gov. And there's a whole series of steps to do that. I'm going to be showing you a slide at the end giving you the information for the Colorado PTAC. If you're that basic and you're not into sam.gov yet, I recommend that you call them. It's free assistance, and they can help you get registered. Okay? So we're not going to go through the registration process, but basically, and this does change, and I saw today that they are going to do updates as of tomorrow, so I know the screen's about to change again. So it's always saying what is SAM, register with SAM, and search with SAM. It's just that they may be in a little different area. So all you want to do is, if you can't Google, which you can't at this point, they just changed the screen, you have to click search at the bottom. It takes you to a screen that then gives you this little box. So it's just flipping you over so you can type in the term, the NAICS code, whatever it is that you want to do a search for. Okay? So on all of these websites with the government, that is the other thing, of course, you know, they're constantly tweaking them, so it may look a little different, but still the basic information is going to be the same for you. Okay? So the search term that I put in on this one was just an NAICS code of the janitorial, 561720. And so it gives you a list, and I left it very general, didn't specify anything, just put in that code. So it gave me a list, but basically the problem is that I have 10 pages of about 25, so that's a little too general. So what you can do then is if you go over to the left side, as I trip over things, if you go to the left side here, you have apply filters, but you have a way of being able to condense your search more. You have to click on apply filters, and then you'll get an even larger drop-down box. And so on my listing here, and usually on my initial searches anyway, I do try to at least search by the location. This list that I condensed to is for the state of Colorado. You could go into an actual city if you want to just know who right within Colorado Springs, Denver, wherever is going to be your competitors or who is already registered to do business with the government. So you can filter it down even per zip code, country, county, etc. And with each of these, if I would click city, you get another drop-down box. So it's very simple, again, very user-friendly. I do know also, I made this so you could see it a little better. To the right, there is a glossary, which is really nice. So pay attention if you don't know what some of these things might bring up for you. The glossary list is there. You just click on it, and it'll give you the definition of what you'll be getting information-wise for it. Okay, so after I condensed it down and you get a new list. Actually, let me go back one screen here because this is the condensed list. So view details is all that I did. I chose that so you could see a little more detail of what you'll get. And so you're getting the entity information, pretty general on this first screen. But you are allowed then to expand that. You can get the entire record, you can get the core data. Even if you get the core data, it still is really the information of when did the organization start, et cetera. It's kind of the basic organizational information. But the benefit of SAM is to at least see that large picture list to see how many competitors that you have. Then you will want to continue on to the next website that we were talking about, which is the Small Dynamic Business Search. This is through the SBA. Okay, and when you register with SAM, you also have the ability to register in that Small Dynamic Business Search, which I encourage everybody to do, and make sure that your record is public, because government agencies also search this. Just when they're trying to think, should this be a small business set aside? Should it be a woman-owned business? Should it be veteran-owned business set aside? They will go and do an initial search just to see who is capable of performing on that contract. And if those entities would, or if those certifications would make any difference. So at this point, the Small Dynamic Business Search, we're going to spend a little more time on because it's a lot more intensive, has a lot more information. Each of these screens is going to show how you could narrow the search down. I actually, again, try to keep it as broad as possible, except for location. That's the only narrowing that I will do, is either a state, or if I want sometimes a county within the state itself, but I usually leave it at the state. So you can see in the location profile you have congressional districts even. I mean, you can really narrow this one down and hone it in right into your market. The next one, and you even have metropolitan zip code there. The next area talks about certifications. I again leave that pretty broad unless I am specifically working to find out, I would like to know how many others are 8A certified or woman-owned small business who are competing or potentially competing on these things. But if you keep it broad to start with, you get that big picture. You can come back and do a second search and then narrow it down, and that's what I would recommend. If you leave these all as not required, this next section here is going to show all the check marks and show all of these. Okay, so all the socioeconomic entities are going to be reflected in your report. You can then type in, and that's what I did again with janitorial, your NAICS code. You could also put a keyword in if you wanted down here. So if you wanted to type in temporary help or janitorial. And also if your company is one that is something that would be in the green market, you can specifically narrow it down to find out only those that would compete against you with that certification or licensing. I leave the general nature of the business usually pretty blank because your NAICS code is going to already show that. But if you want to not put in an NAICS code and you just want to do really general research for construction, you could do that as well, okay? Bonding levels, if you're not in the construction industry, it's of no issue. You just skip that on down to the quality assurance standards. Again, only certain industries that applies to. So most all of that you're going to see is left blank on my general report here, especially for janitorial. You can narrow it to size if you want one that's a little bit, if perhaps you're looking even for a subcontractor. Maybe you have an option at a prime or you're looking for a sub to team with. You could narrow it down to say, okay, I need a small, otherwise you're going to get the big companies as well as the small on your list. Okay, so you can narrow it down more. Capabilities, if you're looking for something specifically, you can certainly say must take credit cards or any of those. I left it very general and not required on those for this list you're about to see. And then I have nothing. I do first letters matching. You can, sounds like, but you get some really strange things, trust me. So it's usually the first letters matching that I will go for on this search. And I think it automatically comes up as that anyway within the search. I don't believe that I have to physically change that, but just so that you know. And then on the profile status, you can get, I do check active. You can uncheck that box and get old information if there's something out there that you're looking for. Usually, if I'm working with a client, I very rarely have to go into historical, but on occasion, if I'm not finding a company that they had mentioned, I will go into historical and say, oh, okay, I see they used to do business with the government, they're not now. But you'll see why you might want to do that because you get a lot of information on those companies out of the report you're going to see here in a minute. And then, you know, basically the display options you have are there, and I put all of mine just in here. You can have it different size text. But I usually always do it in the table format, which is what you're going to see. And the reason why is because it's a lot easier to link rapidly into a company if you want to have more detailed information out of it. But you can certainly import it as a spreadsheet. You could do an Excel. This is the only report that I usually don't do in an Excel spreadsheet. You're going to see throughout the rest of this that I like Excel because you can sort it in so many different ways. So I love that. But this one here I do in the table format. So then you say search using these criteria, and it will bring up your table listing. And anything that is highlighted and underlined is something that when you click to it goes instantly into that company. These are not typically ones because there's so many pages of these that I usually will print out, but it does give me specific information to search and print out specifics on a company. So that I've got them handy for future research. So on this, also I want you to notice up here that it does show what your search was in regards to. What did you put in there to search for this time? And that's why I say if this is too much, you can go back and do another search. You can narrow it down even more, and you'll be able to tell the difference because even if you print this first page, you'll know what your particular attributes were for both of these reports that you're researching. Okay? So we went ahead in the next scene, you're going to see that I had clicked on Citrus LLC because I want you to see the report. You can see that it gives the general information. I like this one better than SAM because it gives you a direct link to their websites. So another key area for everybody to research on competitors is to go take a quick look at their websites, obviously. And sometimes they will list past performance on their websites that they're not going to put anywhere else. So it's really valuable to spend even 5 or 10 minutes jumping over to a website if it's of interest, okay? It does give, all of the key information here. Down here it does talk about legal structure, ownership and self-certifications. This one is actually a woman-owned small business. Information in here may or may not be filled out. If they are 8A certified, the SBA will have this information filled out. It is not something that someone can self-certify themselves. That's in the control of SBA. Same with a little bit further down, there's a DBE certification that Department of Transportation is in charge of. And so those are things that whoever is registered has no control over, but it would tell you if they were 8A certified, when they went into the program, when they're going to graduate, and what their number is. So if you're looking specifically to team with somebody or mentor you in some way, shape, or form, that's how you could find the information out. It does go down and show you HubZone certification as well if they're qualified, which is on the next screen. DBE certification is right there, again, out of your control or anyone's control, except for Department of Transportation. If they are involved in an 8A joint venture, that's what's listed there. SBA, again, would still be putting that information in because that's all formal agreements, okay? And non-federal government certifications would potentially be if they did a third-party minority business enterprise or woman business enterprise. Those are really the only non-government ones at this point. So then we have a capabilities narrative, and so this is why I love these reports, is because if you're really trying to put together a solid capability statement or more information into your own keywords and capabilities, and you're wondering why is it that I don't have a lot of information showing up, you really want the capabilities narrative to be completed. So start looking at your competitors and see what kind of information they're putting in there. It may give you ideas of things that you've neglected to put in. It may give you some keywords you hadn't even thought of. So it's of value for you to, why recreate the wheel? If somebody is successful and is getting contracts, go see what they're saying, okay? As far as the rest, it does list if there's any sort of special equipment that some of these companies have. If you're looking for a partner in particular that can provide this type of equipment, sometimes they'll have those listed if it's special. Bonding levels again. Okay, then you have the table of the NAICS codes. And on this, you can see the top one over has, on number 1, it has yes under primary. So that is the key area that they make over 50% of their gross sales is in their primary industry code. Everything else that they are showing here, they are capable of performing. Now, are they directly capable of performing? Maybe not. They may have a subcontractor or a teaming partner, but they can still, as long as they can perform that service because they have a team that they are utilizing, they can still put that up there because this is, again, where the government would go to say who's qualified. And so, some of these, as you can see, are very strange. That's why I had to explain that to you. When you're looking at food service contractors and perishable, and then you come down here to office administrative and facilities report, but you also have to remember that the industry codes would be particular for this industry. Maybe they are managing kitchens. Maybe they are managing the cafeterias that the government has out there. But it's just some of these you can look at and you're going, this has nothing to do with anything else. But in the long run, because of the industry codes the way they are, unfortunately, there's still enough lumped in there that you may have a peculiar title to something, but it really is something that you could perform in that industry, okay? But it will verify, because you're going to be putting information in on the general as to what your gross sales were over the last 3 years average. So it actually goes ahead and calculates and says, yes, then you are a small business in this NAICS code. So that's not something you have to fill out, but this is, pretty critical for you to get as much as you're capable of doing filled out, okay? The rest of these are industry specific. It also gives you an option if you are wanting to be an exporter, et cetera. I mean, those are kinds of things that are information out there. Then you have the performance history. That's the other really valuable tool to you. Now, not everybody puts in information on the performance history, but this particular one did. And actually, most of them that are doing active contracting have learned that that's a wise thing to do, because it immediately gives the government, when they're researching, a picture too that you really have performed services on the government contracts. And so it used to be that, they were told, well, don't put it out there because then everybody's going to know that you have this contract, and they're going to know when it's up, and they're going to know, when they can bid it or who to develop a relationship with. All true, because that's exactly what I was going to tell you to do right now. Look at that past performance. This one actually is an older one. But look and see who it is that you maybe want to start establishing your relationships with, to focus in on key agencies, because you don't want this broad, just send your capability statement out to everybody. You want to narrow it in so that there's 4 to 6 agencies that you are actually developing a relationship with. So if you're looking at somebody else's past performance that's your competitor, you can see if there is a contract that is going to be a renewable one. And you can then get an idea, oh, hey, that's a year or 2 off. I could start building up some sort of relationship with that particular office right now, and then start researching that bid specific if you need to. Because a lot of, pardon me?
Can you tell if it's renewable? Where does it say that?
And I didn't hear that, I'm sorry. Could you
Where do you tell if it's a renewable?
It's actually, through some of these other reports, you're going to find out some of that. This one is not necessarily going to tell you that unless you already know that to be true. In your industry, if you know there's a contract on Peterson that renews every 3 years for a particular, I have a client that does traffic signals. And so there is one that it's in the industry known that every 3 years they re-let it for the maintenance of that. So that's how you would really know it, is within your industry you start to gain that kind of knowledge. But some of these other reports that we're going to go through today will help a little bit. Okay. Is there any, if there's questions, you might want to hold them till the end as well, because we have a lot of information, but if it's important like that, please let me know what you're thinking at that point. This is basically all for this website. So are there any questions? Because I know that this one is a lot of information, but I think you really just have to experience, which is why I wanted to walk you through the steps. It's really user-friendly. There's one I'm going to show you a little later that's not, but this one is. So there are a couple of others on their website. This quick market search only gives you just a couple of areas that you can search. This is typically exactly where the government goes, because they want to just key in on a state, an NAICS code, and then their keywords sometimes would be WOSB, sometimes small business. I mean, they know exactly what they're going for, so they use the quick market search a lot more. And so, it doesn't hurt to once in a while go out and do that on your own, just to make sure you're appearing in the quick market so that you've got all the details filled out on your profile that you need. Okay? So other websites that we're going to go into here now, and this is for some quick insight, and some of it is for past and present, some of it is going to be more information about your competitors. So the first, FedBizOpps, a lot of people know that that's out there because that's where they post anything $25,000 or more that's a request for proposal out there. They also post request for information. It's valuable for you to, at least on the larger contracts, be able to get some information about past and present. You're going to be learning today that there's other avenues for the smaller contracts that they don't ever have to post them to FedBizOpps. So that's kind of information that we all hear a lot. Oh, they have to post it on FedBizOpps. No, they don't. $25,000 or more has to be posted on FedBizOpps. Anything under that does not have to be posted. And there are also other avenues. I have actually seen the government let contracts up to $100,000 never posting it on FedBizOpps because of utilizing blanket purchase orders, and these are some of the things that you're going to be learning about today. Plus, I'm going to show you a place on GSA that you can go and actually take a little mini training that they have that really will educate you in all the different ways, micro purchasing and everything that the government performs when they're doing purchasing, so that you can see how did Joe get the $100,000 contract. I never saw it on FedBiz Ops, and you find out that it was an open purchase order where they only bought like 10,000, and then the next month 10, and the next month 10. So by the end of the year, it does add up, but they don't have to post it that way. GSA is the other website we're going to go through here, and it gives you a lot of information in regards to pricing, et cetera, for the competitors. So we're going to start with the FPDS. I'm sorry, no, these are, this is another website, the fpds.gov. That's the one that I told you that is really not user-friendly. That one is a website that is got a wealth of information, lots of training and manuals, and those even, you read through those manuals sometimes and it's like, what did I just read? This doesn't make sense. So what I have given you is, I'll show you a template on here, and it'll kind of give you a little cheat sheet of your own on how you can cut to the chase and just get exactly what you need. Because that's where the federal government reports all of their data to. So it's got a lot of different uses for that website. So we'll show you the key ones for you. And then for forecasting, there is the Acquisition Central. Not all agencies list on that. So we'll explain a little bit more about how you can understand if somebody is not listed on there, how do you go seek for forecasting for their next year or two's budget, okay? So FedBiz Ops, as we discussed, research of contracts $25,000 or $25,000 or greater, or request for information, or when they're actually just kind of seeking if there's enough women-owned businesses, if there are enough veteran-owned businesses, they'll put out that request for information just to see how many responses they'll get back. And so you can get current opportunities, but you can also find past awards, and you can find that future potential. You were asking about how do you know what's relet. A lot of times if a contract is found on a past performance, you can go into FedBiz Ops, you can pull up the old information on that contract, and then you can read through just the brief summary in order to find out this contract is relet every 3 years, or it is a relet already from 3 years ago. I mean, it's those kinds of things that will give you that hint and information, okay? So this is one of the areas that you'll be seeing. And then we're going to show you how you can look at what other prime contractors are out there, because most all small businesses are too small to be a prime to start with. And so if that's the case, then you want to know who's showing themselves as being interested in the larger contracts, and that's who you want to focus your marketing on, is the prime, okay? You can also register for your email notifications on a particular request for proposal or information. If there's one, and it's all free to sign up. It's very easy to sign up on FedBiz Ops as a vendor, and that's how you would be able to then get the email information off of particular proposals that are out there, so that if it's updated or if there's any change or if it's pulled off, you'll get the email, okay? And then, of course, tracking potential competitors. So we're going to show you all of that. So homepage for FedBiz Ops. You can, again, narrow it down some, any place of performance for any state, etc. I mean, I left this one fairly broad. This is where you would sign up. You actually would be the vendor side, and it's, again, a very simple registration. It's free. And it's not one like on SAM.gov and Small Dynamic Business Search. Once you're in there, a lot of times you'll start getting flooded with emails because people use those as mailing lists. FedBiz Ops, that's not the purpose of it. You're only going to get the emails from them when something has changed, okay? But you do need to register in order to be able to say that you want that email and you want that information. There are on all of these, if you look around, I mean, there's information and there's updated events that show up on a lot of these. Down here, you have the user guides. So if you want a little more information on other information that you could get off of FedBiz Ops, or if you remember part of what I say today and you kind of want a little more information, you can go and pull up the user guides. And so, just kind of search that homepage initially just to see what's available to you. So we did temporary and help on this one and left it very general again, but up at the top are where you're going to get your opportunities list, your advanced searches, and your archives. Not many people know FedBizOpps. You can access the archives. Now, it's only archived back a certain period and really solid information over the last 3 years. Before that, it's kind of a little sketchy because it wasn't necessarily reported in the same manner. The other problem you have with FedBizOpps is that it is a third-party contractor that manages this for the government. So what you find out, I think it's about every 5 years that this contract has the potential of change. So within the last 5 years, a new contractor took it. So the archives do kind of go away because they don't play real friendly when the contractors are changing. So, the website changed and the old contractor did not pass on as many of the archives. So it gets a little sketchy. And so if there is a changeover and you're not able to dig up archives, there's other avenues, but just be aware of that on this particular website. So on this one, it gives you the general list. There are 6 opportunities out there currently listed for the temporary and help. I did have it on the advanced search. That's the tab I went to in order to get this next screen, because now I want to narrow it down to Colorado specific. And then, of course, you can see you have the same type of options that I went over in detail with the Dynamic Small Business Search. Do you want to get socioeconomic certifications involved there? Or, do you want to also look at the different types of procurement type? Now, these aren't going to make a whole lot of sense to you maybe now, but once you learn about that pathways to success, more and more of these will. Pretty much we all understand pre-solicitation, you have the award notices, etc. Sources sought, that's when they're looking for the information. But any other terms may not make a lot of sense, but that's okay, because that pathway to success that I'm going to show you, that little training is going to teach you a whole lot more of what some of this means, okay? So at this point, I do usually like to put in, if there is archive, and let me see if this is the right page for it, special notice sources sought. And this is not it, so let's look at the next one. No, that's NAICS codes. Oh, archives has its own tab. So it comes up already with an archive on whatever it is that you're searching. So here you can narrow down for NAICS codes. You do have classification codes still used by Department of Defense. Not many other agencies. I do believe Department of Energy on occasion does, but mostly it's Department of Defense. And so you will, if you already know what your classification code is, great. If not, then there is a way on, I believe it's the SAM.gov. It is. SAM.gov has a list and a link, and you can go directly to it, and it gives you an Excel spreadsheet, and you can just comb down through the classifications to figure out what general classification fits your company. So temporary help is already checked because that's what I had been searching for. This is the reduced list in the state of Colorado. I went from 6 choices to 4, so these are all going to be performed in Colorado. And so it's general information. You guys can see here as to when it was posted. If it's a set aside for a specific, it's going to tell you in here. And then the agencies. So I clicked on the top one to get more detail. This actually happened to be one in Denver, Colorado. Gives you that summary that we were talking about in the first page. And then over to the side, if it's of interest, you can download the package then and get the more detailed proposal request at that point. And that's what all of this is. And all of these are dates as to when these files were changed, because that's the other reason you want that email. If you are following something here that you're planning on bidding, you need to know if there's any updates that are going to happen, because you could be working from the proposal as it originally was and they've amended it along the way. All right, so you want to pay close attention to all of that. And you can go into packages and get actually the same list is basically it. I didn't know if I had a screen showing that. The packages are going to show that same list of documents that you can download. And there's a zip file at the bottom for you to just download the whole entire current synopsis, okay? And then here's the interested vendors list that we were talking about. That's the other tab. And so these are all potentially prime contractors. Some of them may be small contractors that are interested in bidding on this, so they're looking for a team or they're already a part of a team. So this again gives you the information on people that you could reach out to and establish a network if they are someone who you could perform the services complementary to. Okay? Taking you back to the home page, because as you scroll down, as I told you, there's the user guides. You can also see there's a demonstration video that kind of walks you through this. So these are all things that you could take a little bit of time in. They don't take a lot of time usually, but plan on about an hour if you're going to go in there to learn about a website. It's going to at least be a video or something that's going to take you about an hour. So if you need to refresh yourself on anything that we've discussed today, you can certainly come in and look at it again there.